I would get picked on a lot, right? I'd get picked on so much, and it was because of my height. I was always this big, goofy, lanky kid. So like the little shorter kids were trying to make a name for themselves, go beat up the big kid. But that that doesn't apply when you're kids. It's like, what am I gonna do? Is I was just taking hits and running around, but. So my dad was just so embarrassed. I used to get lit up so much, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you in boxing classes." So I take boxing classes, and I thought it was a great, cardio workout. I thought it was great. The community is great. I got to like talk to these great fighters. They're older men that could fight. And I was like, "Oh man, I'm basically interviewing these boxers, and they're telling me to go fuck off. Like, hey man, I'm trying to train. Hey man, you're pretty cool. How much can you bench press?" Just being an annoying high schooler.
Yeah.
And so I would just train there, and eventually, I started getting okay. I started sparring, and I sparred with this guy at this kickboxing gym there in Long Beach. It's off of Anaheim, and the master, his name is Omri. He came from Cambodia, very well respected. I mean, knew his stuff. Had been fighting since he was a kid, basically. And so Omri was like, "Hey, I think it's time for you to spar." It's like, "Do you feel comfortable sparring?" And I had done it a handful of times. And I sparred with this guy in particular, long hair, nose piercing. He would take it off, just rock and roll, badass kind of guy. Only white guy in the boxing gym. And so we're boxing. He's like 30 something. I don't know, 16, 17. And, I mean, it was like $1 Million Baby. The kid that pays the membership all up front. And they're like, what is he doing here? That was me.
Yeah.
And so I'm in there boxing. I'm sparring with the guy, and he just takes it to the next level and just roundhouse kicks me. Wah, bah, hits me. Boom. Buckle. I hit the ground. I hear birds. I see little dots of color. I mean, I'm knocked out. And I come back to life, and Omri's there and some of the other boxers, and they're like, "Are you all right?" I can't talk. There's no way I can possibly talk. And Omri is mad at the guy. He's like, "Hey, you hurt my students. They don't come back." He's like, "What are you, like, why are you fighting at 100% with this kid?" And so they got on his ass. They basically wanted to kick him out. And he's like kind of worried, but not really caring. And I still can't like talk. Now it's like almost time for my dad to pick me up. My dad is like honking. I guess I'm not walking out or anything. And then so he walks in and he's like, "Hey man, it's late. Let's go." And then they're like, "Hey, well, he got knocked out." He's like, "What do you mean he got knocked out?" They're like, some of the boxers there were like translating of like, "Hey, he got knocked out." He's like, "He got what?" He's like, kind of like pushing people out of the way. Let me see. And here you have, I'm my height, 11th, 10th grade. I'm my height in high school. So 6'3", Jesus just slumped over in the corner of the gym. And my dad goes up and he's like, "Let's go." And he's like, "Why can't he talk?" He's like, "He got knocked out and he's pissed." He's like, "Who knocked him out?" And I mean, everybody just kind of like stepped aside and just like, nobody said anything, but they just stepped aside and everyone just kind of looked at this guy. He's like, "It was an accident, man." He's like, and now my dad's losing it. He's like, "F you." I mean, he's going all out. He's 5 foot, little guy. And he's losing it, man. He's losing it. He's bouncing off walls. He goes to the truck. He goes to the gardening truck. And in the gardening truck, he has this old, rusty machete. And he takes it out. Now everyone's like spilling out. They take me out there, and I'm panicking. I see my dad with the machete. He's sparking it on the ground. He's, hitting it on the ground. It's like, and I didn't know machetes could do that. It's like you hit it on the ground. It was just like, it was so surreal. Like, is this happening right now? And he's like, "Come on, man." And people are like, "Hey, man, you don't want to do that." And my dad's like, "Hey, fuck this guy." He's like, "You're going to hit my son? You're going to knock him out?" Like, I don't have kids, but I can't imagine if somebody was to hurt my kid. I mean, it's game over. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
And so my dad was, I mean, his eyes glowed like red. It was scary. I've never seen my dad at that level of angry. And he wanted to get the guy, and they're like separating. The guy was not backing down. He's like, "Come on, man. You think you're tough with the machete?" And in my head, I'm like, my dad's gonna get the roundhouse treatment. We're both gonna, show up at home with with bandages over our heads. But
I love when I wish people could see your body, because when you do an impression of your dad, it's so like it's such a it's so visual. Oh,
come on.
yeah.
You know, it's always the chest pat, only one hand. I don't know why he never did this. It was always like, come on, man. You know, but it would just, it was the scariest thing ever. And, you know, nothing ever happened. And I remember we ran into the guy like sometime later, and, you know, he pulled up. I was helping my dad, you know, mow some lawns there off of 10th Street and like Magnolia and Long Beach. And, you know, the guy pulls up and he's like in his van. He was a construction worker. So he had this like work van, and he pulls up. He's like, "Hey man, you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, here we go." I'm looking to see if my dad's in sight, because this is gonna be game over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't try to knock you out. You know that, right?" It was kind of like him trying to clarify things, and I'm like,
Hey, just go, just leave right now.
Yeah, and you know, it stayed that way, but you know, that's when my dad pulled me out. I mean, one, we couldn't even afford the damn classes. It was so expensive, you know, it was expensive for us. And yeah, there was no way my dad could sustain it, and that was the excuse he needed to pull me out. And I was like, that's it. So